Is your nonprofit facing the challenge of funders pulling out or delaying commitments? Some of you might be. And for those of you who are, or for those of you who don't have much reserves built up, but you know that you could begin to put some money, store some money away, then this video is going to be for you. As an executive director, I'm sure you know that the ebbs and flows of cash, it can be a red flag at times. And so today we're going to be talking about the importance of building reserves and how you can actually build up to have a pretty nice nest egg for when you need to weather the storm and the waves, especially during today's time. So if this video is of interest to you, then keep watching. Typically, your job as nonprofit executive director, right, is to make sure that not only are you going out and garnering funds, being the face of your organization, making sure things are running well, right, but you have to make sure that ultimately you don't run out of cash. So like a CEO of a for-profit, you as executive director of a nonprofit, you are tasked with making sure that you have enough cash to float your organization, to cover operating expenses, cover programmatic expenses, make sure you are, hitting payroll, right? Which a lot of times can be a daunting task, but it is a huge part of your job. As nonprofit leader though, it's not enough to just focus on the next fundraising campaign or the next funding push, the next grant application push. You have to make sure that your organization has enough to sustain currently. And that's why we're even having this discussion. Now, a reserve fund is not a one-time fix, right? We know that it can help, it can be a bridge, but you do have to continue to bring funding into your organization. And then if you ever do deplete, spend some of your reserve funds, you do have to replenish. And so it's there as an emergency fund of sorts, right? It is there to make sure you get over the hump, but you have to make sure that you have a plan for what happens after those funds run out, which is why you include your reserve funds in your planning, but that can't be your end all be all. You have to have a plan for how you bring funds in to support, right? And to be in contribution in addition to these reserve funds. So let's talk about how you even get started. So before you can even begin to build out your reserves, you want to take a step back and assess the current state of your organization's financial health. So you want to be considering things like your current cash flow, your current liabilities, your expenses, fixed and variable, right? Because you need to have an idea, right, of how much cash your organization is burning, typically on a monthly basis, and how much it takes to actually run your organization. Because again, depending on the size of your organization, it could be a lot of money when you're thinking about, I want to have 3 to 6 months cash saved up, which is also why we recommend starting with one, but we'll get to that in a second. But first, we're starting with what is it that we're even managing, right? How much money are we even thinking about? Are we looking at? And so you first want to start looking at the current state of your finances because you want to get a number in mind. The easiest way to do this is to look at your financial statements. Now, if you find yourself struggling to pull your financial statements, or if you know your bookkeeping hasn't been done in a while, another thing that you can turn to is your bank statement, right? Because your bank statement is going to show you your inflows and outflows. It will also be able to give you an idea of what you're spending month to month. However, if your bookkeeping not being caught up is even a thing as you're watching this video, you need to get your bookkeeping caught up, okay? That needs to be step one. Now, I mentioned that we don't want to go from 0 all the way to 6 months, right? And that's more so for those of you who might be experiencing a little cash strain, or going all the way to 6 months might be a bit much. It depends, right? Because I've worked with some organizations who have had huge cash influxes, and so they are sitting on a lot more cash than they're typically used to. They may not need all that cash at this point, and so some of that in a lump sum can go ahead and be moved to their reserves. However, we know that that is usually not the norm, and so if you are an organization that has to work your way up, I recommend starting with saving 1 month's worth of expenses in your reserve fund. And so what you're going to do is, let's just say that you run the numbers, you see how much it takes to run your organization, what payroll is like, think about what you have typically upcoming month to month, and let's say you determine 50K is, about what you're spending on a monthly basis. If that's the case, your first goal is to save 50K. That's where you're zoning in on. We're not thinking about 100, 150. The first goal is saving that 50K. Now, in conjunction with saving that 50K, you want to have a policy which indicates how or when you are able to even tap into those funds. Because what ends up happening is if you have a little something here that you need to spend on, but you don't have the money sitting in your operating account, you might want to dip into the reserve fund and it's, oh, I'll put it back. Your reserve fund is there for a reason, and so it needs to be ironclad in your reserve fund policy when and how and why you should ever be pulling from your reserves, and it should be board approved. And so, for example, we have an organization who just moved a significant amount over into their reserve funds, and at the last quarterly board meeting, they updated the organization's policies and procedures, and as part of that were the reserve funds. So it was when they get to the point where cash is starting to burn at X rate, they know that they can begin to tap into those reserve funds. But before they can even tap into those reserve funds, they have to show to the board why or how this is happening, and the board has to actually vote on it and approve it before the funds can actually be used. Now, that might not be your story. It might be a different trigger. However, that needs to be documented. Because you're beginning to move these funds into reserves, you want to make sure that there isn't any blurred lines around when or how you can spend this money. Now, once you've hit your 1 month of reserves, you want to move up to 3 months. Now, if you are kind of watching your influx of cash very closely and you know that it is pretty steady, you want to start considering how much over your monthly expenses can you begin to slowly move over to your reserve fund. So we have one organization, mostly grant funded. Whenever they get individual donations, those individual donations get swept at the end of the month over into their reserve fund. So to some extent, every month they're saving a little bit of their income into reserves. You might, determine that there's X percentage that you typically bring in over your 50K, right, monthly burn. So you're saying anything we bring in over, let's just say 55K, automatically goes into reserves. And we're going to do this up until we hit that 3 months. But after you hit that 1 month, your next goal should be to increase from that 50 to that 150K. Brief intermission to talk to you quickly about the Accounting for Good community. If the things that you're learning on my channel seem like a bit of heavy push, if it seems like I know what I need to do, not sure where to start, that is okay. You are not meant to know all things, especially as it relates to the accounting and the fiscal management of your organization, but you should know some things, and that's why we've created the Accounting for Good community, which we have created for nonprofit executive directors and leaders like yourself to have a place where you can get tools, resources, and support as you lead your organization from a fiscal management perspective. And so if you know that you might have some questions, if you know you'd love some support, then join us over in the community. We ultimately like to work up to 6 months, which for many seems like a very robust reserve fund. However, I have seen the use case for it. I've honestly seen more than one. And so ultimately, we like to build up from that 1 to 3 to 6, right? And so you want to have a significant cushion so that you can withstand any delayed funding, any issues happening, for example, with these executive orders where you're spending and I don't know when we're going to get our next payout. This way you are not wondering whether or not you have to shut down, whether or not you have to lay off, right? That 6 month cushion gives you some time to be fundraising. It gives you some time to be applying for additional grants. It gives you some time to maybe kick off a new, monthly sustainer program, whatever it is, but it gives you some wiggle room to figure it out so that you are not scrambling. So you want to make sure that after you hit that 1 month, then that 3 month, that you make your way up to 6 months. Now, building your reserves is not going to be without its challenges, which is why it's something that as a leadership team that you want to come together, create your plan, present it to the board, and then get it approved, because we know that things are going to come up. You're going to have hiccups. But as long as you start with a plan, you at least are starting with a good starting point, right? So one, you want to make sure you have your goals. So whether it's we're saving for the 1 month, or if you've hit the 1 month and you're on to the 3, have your target number, right? Have your target number. You're going to break it out into monthly savings targets, right? Because we know that saving 50K in 1 month, right, is probably not going to be doable, but you might be able to save it over across a number of months. And so you want to have a target. You want to have something that you're aiming for, something that you're shooting for, and something that you can actually weigh against, right? When you're doing your budget to actuals, when you're looking at how you performed against your plan, you can actually determine, what did we do when we hit our target? Because maybe we need to rinse and repeat that. Or if we didn't hit our target, maybe we didn't go hard enough in this last fundraising campaign. We need to do something different the next month. However, if you don't have the goal set, if you don't have a plan for how you're going to get there, it's going to be very difficult for you to then try to assess what you did or didn't do so that you can then replicate that. Now, it's nonprofit land, so things are going to come up. There tends to be unexpected expenses, right? There tends to be things that you didn't anticipate. And so when those sort of things come up, there needs to be a trigger, whether that's a meeting or, whether it's an amount, whatever it is that says we have to get together to determine if this month, actually, we thought we were going to be able to put away, I don't know, $2,500, but actually we have to put that $2,500 over here because of XYZ, and we need to get approval in order to do that. And when I think about, the nature of running a nonprofit organization, like no 2 months are ever typically the same. And so you want to make sure that you're anticipating that things might come up. So it may take you a little bit longer, but you want to have a plan for how you tackle when you actually shift funds. You can't just shift funds away from your goal or your target without there being some sort of discussion, meeting, approval of sorts to make sure that there is some discussion about, we're not going to hit our goal because we're doing this. However, this is our plan to then make up for that in the next month or two, whatever the case may be. So we talked today about the importance of having your cash reserves. We talked about how to go from building from 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 6 months. We discussed you might have some challenges. However, right, you as the executive director, along with your management team and your board, should be having some very clear plans on how you will overcome those, on how you will meet your targets, and how you will assess, right, your ability to meet or not meet those targets, and then have a game plan for how you are going to actually make up for that. And so important, right? Documented and stamped so that there is no backpedaling for how you're going to get there, because reserves are necessary. Ultimately, I want you to start small and stay committed to your organization's financial resilience. I want you to think about your current financial position, right? Where you currently stand and where you can begin. Start today with assessing your expenses, right? Going through your P&L and seeing how much you are burning on a month to month. We've just closed out June. Run your run your year to last month P&L. Have it displayed by month so that you're seeing January, February, March, April, May, June, right, in one report, and do your average, right, of your expenses so you can see on average what you're burning monthly, and let that be your initial goal. Take that to your management team. Talk amongst yourselves about how you may be able to get there so that when you go to the board, you have a clear plan and you have a clear ask, right, for what it is that you need. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope that it was very helpful. If you have any questions or you have any comments, anything that you want me to dig in further or do future videos on, please leave those in the comments. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. And again, if you know that you need additional support, join us over in the community. I'll see you guys in the next video.